Hello, Steve White, Steve Arts 89. So I did a review of Terrerium, and I, of course, missed something, which is so annoying and frustrating. When the Metreon is talking to Ortegas, it says that it's basically going to make the Gorn look more human in future. Okay, number one, why? If you have to make them more human for us to empathize with them and not kill them, that's kind of defeating the purpose. It's like, well, then it's not them. We're not actually not learning or understanding. We are just being like pandered to on some level. So it undermines Arena. It's like, well, Kirk only spared the Gorn's life because it was more human than the Gorn actually are, while still being reptilian and very different from human. That undermines Kirk's story and Kirk's moment there. But they're also suggesting that actually the Gorn do look like they do in Strange New Worlds in all of Star Trek, and it was just the episode of Arena where they were made to look more human, and that's why you have the guy in the suit. And also, the other criticism, which I forgot to mention, was that the Gorn looked very much like a puppeted prosthetic, basically, in the film, in the episode. Whereas in the past, because we've had the Gorn in spacesuits and a lot of different elements, we haven't really seen them for long periods, so they looked, I guess, more realistic, but I still thought they felt like CGI creatures, or they just didn't feel real when I saw them on screen. But the idea that this one was, yeah, like there's the Metron thing, and with this is like they'll criticize the original Star Trek because it's a guy in a suit, but this was obviously a person in a puppeteered suit. Like you could, it's just as fake. It's like nearly 50 years later or 60 years later. I don't know. Yeah, 60 years later. The Gorn still looks fake on screen, and it's like, what have they achieved? How are they better than the original Star Trek? That looks fake today on screen, just like maybe some people would have thought the original Gorn looked fake, although I think less people would have thought the original Gorn looked fake back in the 60s than would look at this and see that it's puppeteered and everything. And part of me is like, well, I'm glad they used puppetry instead of CGI, because it still feels more real than the CGI, but it still doesn't look real. So they kind of failed, and so there's that practical level where they failed, but also just the overall, the idea that, so what, when we saw the Gorn in Lower Decks and other things like the animated series, that what, we're still seeing the Gorn through the Metron's eyes, the way they've made us see the Gorn. Like, do humans just see the Gorn as a different form that it actually is? I mean, it makes no sense, and it's just them trying to explain why the Gorn looks different and how they screwed up. Instead of changing their version to match the original series, they say, oh no, the original Star Trek the Gorn was being seen through some sort of filter, and it actually was like it is in Strange New Worlds. So I mean, they've tried to retroactively fix something they screwed up with a throwaway line instead of actually giving it a whole episode or something. But they're also changing, future Star Trek to sort of suit their Star Trek, even though their Star Trek's the one that doesn't work. So, yeah, so I meant to mention in the review that the Gorn looked fake, and the irony of all these people saying, oh, the original Star Trek is corny and fake and we can't watch it, so we did new Star Trek, and new Star Trek looks just as fake today as supposedly the original Star Trek did back then. I never thought the Gorn looked fake when I was a kid. I didn't think about it being a man in a suit. Obviously it is, but then again, I think that feels more real than a CGI alien that isn't even there on the screen. It's just like a CGI program run afterwards and adding it in. And who's to say the Gorn don't look like that? Maybe they are rubbery and don't have much movement. They're an alien, you can get away with that. So I just had to comment on the fact that they, like, within their own sort of canon, retroactively changed the Gorn, and now they're saying in future it's the Gorn that we created, and they only just saw the Gorn that way. And is that only Kirk, or is it because the Gorn was seen outside of that episode. So that still doesn't make sense or explain it unless they've said all humans see the Gorn as more human. It's just it doesn't work. It's a mess. I don't know what they were thinking, but that's what they did. So yeah, fake puppet Gorn, and Gorn filter for all future characters. Like, none of this works, and it's just more examples of just Star Trek Strange New Worlds being bad and just not working. And I just don't know who's making these decisions and who's okay. Well, Kurtzman's okaying these decisions, but it's a mess. So I had to do a follow-up video for that. Otherwise, the whole video would have been about that. But I'm going to go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think. I mean, thank God this is technically a different timeline and unofficially a different universe, because we don't have to actually explain why these two things exist together, because they're in different universes.